In the rhythm of modern life, our minds often resemble a sky filled with turbulence. Scattered thoughts, quiet anxieties, lingering fatigue, turning endlessly in circles. At night, even when the body is ready to rest, something inside us still hums with a silent kind of noise. And so this video is created as a small doorway, inviting you to step gently out of that chaos and into a journey that is both soothing and awakening, where the outer universe becomes a mirror for the universe within. Here, every star, every planet, every subtle movement of space carries an ancient question about existence. Questions we often forget amid the noise of the day, yet they soften and unfold when whispered in the dark. Allow this voice to guide you across galaxies as tender as breath, through philosophical stories that murmur about the meaning of life, about the stillness we have misplaced. For as Carl Jung once said, who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes. All you need to do is relax and let the journey begin. There are quiet nights when the sky feels so vast that you sense yourself drifting through a boundless space, a space without borders or edges. The ordinary thoughts of the day loosen their grip and fall away like specks of morning dust. And in that brief, trembling stillness, you begin to hear something faint, something like the breath of the universe itself. It is in that moment that you touch what the ancient sages once called the primordial point, a place where absolute simplicity existed before any shape, any structure, any motion ever began. And that beginning, the one both mathematics and philosophy quietly agree upon, is a single infinite line. Not wide, not deep, no surface, no weight, no body. Just a slender trace extending forever without a first point or a last, like the very first thought rising in the mind before memory, expectation, or definition has the chance to distort it. When you close your eyes and imagine that line, you are not merely picturing a geometric form. You are touching a symbol of origin, the beginning of space, the beginning of thought, the beginning of a journey that would one day unfold into billions of galaxies, millions of light years, and countless questions humanity is still attempting to answer. For that reason, this one-dimensional line becomes a doorway. And this doorway does not lead you outward into the universe, but back into the quiet interior of your own being. In Thus Spoke Zarathustra, Friedrich Nietzsche wrote, "All great things must first wear terrifying and monstrous masks." And within that idea rests a gentle truth. The greatest things often begin in forms so simple that we fail to recognize them. The line is just like that colorless silent without any visible complexity. Yet its simplicity is precisely what calms us. Before the universe became a storm of motion, heat, gravity, and light, it was only a line, the very first breath of existence. In the still slices of night, when our minds are no longer pulled apart by scattered thoughts, we see it clearly. Sometimes what we need is not more complexity, but a return to that original line, a quiet anchor within us where everything begins again from zero. Imagine now that you stand in a space of complete darkness. No objects, no sounds, no gravity to orient you, nothing to distinguish yourself from the universe around you. And then suddenly a thin stroke of light appears like the first brush mark of a cosmic painter. Just one line. But it creates the idea of direction of existence, of distance. It is like Descartes whispering in Meditations on First Philosophy. I think, therefore I am. Perhaps the universe too once spoke a similar truth. I am drawn, therefore I exist. This line is the beginning of self-awareness, not human awareness, but the universe's own recognition of its presence. Once traced, the line offers the cosmos something to lean on, a reference, a path, a foundation from which infinite expansion may unfold. And there is something quietly beautiful about this. A line never conflicts with itself. It does not branch, does not break, does not struggle to find where it belongs. It simply continues. In the turbulence of our lives, this becomes a gentle lesson that helps us rest more easily, breathe more softly. Not every question demands an answer right away. Not every complexity must be unraveled tonight. Sometimes we only need to keep walking one slow, simple line. Carl Jung once wrote in Memories, Dreams, Reflections, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." But before we walk through pain, before we explore the many dimensions of emotion, memory, and the shadows within ourselves, we need a foundation, a point of departure. The 1D line is that foundation, neat, minimal, uncluttered. Like a quiet reminder, peace is sometimes just the act of reducing things, so the mind has space to breathe. What is most beautiful about a line is not the line itself, but all that may emerge from it. One day that line will widen into a plane, Another day it will swell into three-dimensional space. Then time will enter, weaving itself into an endless stream. And beyond that, higher dimensions will shimmer at the edges of imagination, dreamlike, delicate, still unnamed by mathematics. Yet everything, every vastness, every wonder begins with a single line. And this is the most fitting way to open our philosophical journey tonight, with absolute simplicity. For if we begin with something too grand, the mind may be swept away. But if we begin with a line, the listener is gently invited into stillness. They find themselves drifting along its slow rhythm, unhurried, steady, just as the universe once did, soft in its beginning, yet unstoppable. And as that line stretches on, never turning, never breaking, a quiet curiosity arises. Is there something beyond it? Is there a wider layer of reality waiting to unfold? Could this line expand into a vast plane, a surface where the world begins to take shape and find its language? That is the question leading us toward the next chapter, the expanding surface. When the second dimension was born. But before we step onto that plane, let us offer a moment of silence, a slow, deep breath to the universe's first line. That slender trace not only gave birth to space, it also plants a seed of calm within the listener's soul. As the universe's first line stretched on, endlessly quiet, unwavering, without a single shift in direction, we begin to sense that something wants to open, as though singularity is no longer enough to contain the possibilities quietly forming within it. That line, in all its pristine simplicity, seems to invite an expansion, a new breath of existence. In the stillness of night, if you close your eyes, you might feel that moment, the way you feel a subtle loosening deep inside the mind when a thought no longer moves only forward but gently begins to spread outward. A softening, a widening, a quiet opening. And so from that infinite line, the universe draws another stroke. A stroke that lies beside it, harmonizing with it, forming a plane, the second dimension. No sound, no tremor, just the simple addition of another direction, like the way a calm lake stretches outward from the first drop of rain. The 2D plane is one of the purest ideas in mathematics, and also one of the most tender images in philosophy. It does not have depth to overwhelm us. It does not pierce space the way a 3D form does. It merely spreads silently, ready to receive every shape that might one day be drawn upon it. In The Essence of Truth, Martin Heidegger once wrote, "Every opening is a silent event." And that is the essence of the second dimension. An unfolding wrapped in silence. The atmosphere of 2D is markedly different from 1D. If 1D resembles a single unwavering path cutting through the dark, then 2D feels like a gentle sky unfurling beneath your feet, a place where no single direction rules over the others. Now, instead of only moving forward or backward, you may turn left, turn right, or simply pause and observe the spreading stillness of the plane. The second dimension does not force a choice. It invites the sense of possibility. In life, there are times when our minds operate like a one-dimensional line, one thought pulling another and then another with no escape. Those who overthink often get trapped in their own 1D, only before and after right and wrong, gain and loss. But when we learn to expand into a plane like the 2D surface, the mind suddenly has more room to breathe. Instead of being dragged along, we begin to diffuse. No depth to frighten us. No towering heights to overwhelm us. Just a gentle open surface where thoughts can lie down, rest, and stop colliding with one another. Carl Jung wrote in The Undiscovered Self, "Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart." The 2D plane is precisely that moment. When we open an inner space where we can look within, not to judge, not to dig, but simply to witness the soft spreading of our being. Many assume that flatness is monotony, but it is not. Flatness is a primordial form of peace where every line has a place to settle, where feelings do not have to rise into mountains of emotion, nor sink into valleys of anxiety. In the process of healing, what we need is not always deep analysis, not dramatic change, but a surface, a quiet plane on which we can set down the complex structures of the mind for a while. The plane becomes a place where sadness is not forced to deepen. Joy does not have to erupt. Thoughts no longer need to rush. The mind no longer has to wrestle with itself. It simply opens, light, thin, boundless. Consider this: every painting, every masterpiece, every great design begins with a surface. For that reason, 2D is not a limitation, it is a foundation. In this quiet flatness, countless possibilities can be written. Shapes, curves, circles, all will be born from here. Just as within us, when placed upon a steady plane, the inner world begins creating new insights, new feelings, gentle yet enduring. Nietzsche wrote in The Will to Power, "Become what you are." And to become what we truly are, we need a surface where our essence can unfold without distortion. The second dimension is precisely that ground. If 1D is the sound of beginning, then 2D is the whisper of spreading. If the line is awakening, then the plane is relaxation. From a single unbroken stroke, space becomes a broad, quiet fabric where every direction opens, where the loneliness of the solitary line is finally replaced by companionship. The universe at this point does not merely exist, it begins to open itself. And then, when the plane is wide enough, still enough, soft enough to welcome all possibilities, a gentle question arises. Is there something beneath this surface? Can the world step into a depth where shapes become alive, where form gains body and presence? This is the natural transition into the third dimension, the realm of volume, substance, and the first hints of liveliness. But before we descend into that depth, let the mind rest a little longer upon this quiet plane. Because sometimes this flatness, this unassuming, peaceful spread of possibility, is the very thing we need most in order to find ourselves again. As the 2D plane stretched endlessly like a silk sheet beneath moonlight, it felt as though the universe had finally become spacious enough to cradle every possibility. Yet something strange begins to stir the surface, no longer satisfies the universe's quiet hunger to expand. It is no longer enough to contain the shapes waiting silently to rise. In the stillest seconds of night, if you listen deeply, you can sense that moment. The moment when the plane wants to stand up, to lift itself, to become something that can be touched, something that can cast a shadow, something that carries weight. And so, depth appears. Gentle as the universe's blink, soft as the first breath of life. No fanfare, no noise. Just a subtle movement, but one powerful enough to change the nature of reality forever. The third dimension, 3D, is not a rupture of what came before, but the natural flowering of it. It adds what the plane could never offer: thickness. And from thickness, the world becomes sculptural, tangible, intimate, as familiar as our own bodies. Heidegger wrote in Being and Time, "We are thrown into the world, and it is in this world that we must find our way." 3D is exactly that world we are thrown into. Here, objects are no longer lines or drawings. They become mountains, valleys, stones you can hold in your hand, droplets that roll across your skin. 3D is where we learn to know existence through the body, where space begins to have smell, sound, brightness, shadow, where consciousness understands that it does not merely watch the world, it is touched by the world in return. If 1D is the line and 2D the surface, then 3D is experience. Without depth, we would never understand the feeling of standing before a mountain, the humility of looking down into a valley, the intimacy of reaching out to touch an object, or the separation we sense when we step out of darkness and into light. Depth makes distance meaningful. It lets us know what is near and what is far, what is approaching and what is fading away. Nietzsche once wrote in Beyond Good and Evil, "There are no beautiful surfaces without a terrible depth," a sentence that seems to speak of art, yet it is also a description of 3D itself. Without depth, the world is only a flat painting, beautiful but without pulse. With depth, beauty becomes real, becomes something with breath and heartbeat. In 3D, every object gains its own story. A stone is no longer merely a square or a circle. It has texture, weight, a sound when tapped. A mountain is not only a peak and a base, it has ridges, crevices, slopes, valleys hidden beneath drifting clouds. 3D is where shapes stop being silent. They begin to speak in the language of shadow and light, of curvature and thickness, of presence and the space they displace. And so it is with our inner lives. Only with depth do we have a story. Only when we enter the deeper layers of the self do we find what Jung described in Modern Man in Search of a Soul. There is no light without shadow, and no psychic wholeness without imperfection. 3D teaches us that a world with depth is a world with shadows, and this is not frightening. It is simply proof that reality is alive. We have lived in 3D since the moment we opened our eyes at birth, and so we often forget its wonder. We forget that being able to see behind an object is extraordinary. We forget that being able to reach into space is a gift. We forget that depth, the thing that makes everything real, once did not exist. But if you look at the world with the eyes of someone who has just stepped out of the 2D plane, everything regains its original strangeness. A leaf becomes a tiny universe with thickness. A door becomes not a line, but a threshold. A tree trunk becomes not a cylinder, but a living archive of time. 3D turns every object into a being, a presence, a story. And because of that, this world feels both familiar and deeply mysterious. There is something beautiful here. The depth of space reflects the depth of the soul. When our inner world becomes flat like 2D, we feel flimsy, unanchored. But when emotion, thought, and experience begin to gain depth, we grow steadier. Healing is not about eliminating shadow. It is allowing shadow and light to coexist in a space with enough room to hold them both. Nietzsche, Jung, and many Western philosophers converge on one idea. No one grows in a flat world. 3D is the stage where the soul first learns to stand upright, the way the surface learns to lift itself into volume. From line to plane to form, the universe is learning how to become itself. And we, in the journey of understanding ourselves, are also moving from the surface layers of consciousness into the deeper valleys and mountains of the psyche. But no matter how wondrous depth may be, it still lacks one thing: movement. A world of solid forms without time is a motionless monument, beautiful but not alive. And so, at the perfect quiet edge of 3D, time prepares to enter the universe like a hidden stream beginning the dawn of the fourth dimension. When three-dimensional space finally stands before us with mountains and valleys, with shadow and light, it feels as though the universe has reached completion. And yet something within it still does not truly live. Every structure, no matter how majestic, remains frozen like a sculpture unless one final condition appears: movement. And for movement to exist, there must be time. You might imagine the entire universe holding its breath, the mountains standing still, the valleys resting quietly, light not yet spreading, darkness not yet receding, space perfect and breathtaking but still only a painting. Then suddenly a faint pulse echoes across the stillness of the cosmos, a pulse without sound, without color, without shape. Yet that pulse opens the fourth dimension, time. And in that single moment, the world moves for the very first time. If 1D is the line, 2D the plane, 3D the solid form, then 4D time is the breath that animates them all. Once placed inside time, every object becomes alive. It moves, it changes, it grows, it fades, it returns. In the Confessions, Augustine once confessed, "What then is time? If no one asks me, I know. If I wish to explain it to him who asks, I do not know." Time, even to the greatest minds, remains a mystery. We feel it, we live in it, yet we can never grasp it. The universe is the same. It does not need to understand time to live within it. It only needs time to be alive. Modern physics, from Einstein to Minkowski, reveals something profound. We do not travel through time as we imagine. Instead, each of us draws a line, a world line on the fabric of space-time. Your world line is the flow of your life. My world line is the flow of mine. And the world becomes interconnected only where these world lines intersect. Two people touch hands only when they meet in the same place and at the same moment. If space is the stage, time is the moment that makes the stage real. Nietzsche wrote in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, "All life is a dispute about taste and tasting." A poetic way of saying, life is experience. An experience can only occur inside time. Time is the foundation upon which every event stands. Without time, nothing ever happens. All possibilities remain asleep, like seeds that have not sprouted. Time creates motion, but motion creates change, and change often creates sorrow. In Being and Nothingness, Sartre wrote, "Everything has been figured out except how to live." Perhaps this is because we live inside something we cannot stop: time. Time that makes us grow, makes us lose, brings us together, pulls us apart, softens our wounds and deepens our love. And yet that very harshness is what heals us, because through time, wounds close. Through time, we learn the value of a moment. Through time, we realize nothing lasts forever, and therefore everything is precious. Time is the teacher who never speaks, yet everyone must listen. When we entered 3D, we learned to touch the world with our hands. When we enter 4D, we learn to touch the world with our memories. Memory is the imprint time leaves on the mind. When a moment passes, it does not vanish, it sinks into another dimension of the self where we continue to live with it through feeling. Jung wrote in Memories, Dreams, Reflections, "In each of us there is another whom we do not know, and that another is the person shaped by time, by what has happened, by what remains unhealed, by what has quietly dissolved. Time does not only create the outer world, it creates the inner world as well. One of the reasons humans suffer is because we try to hold time still. When we are happy, we want time to slow. When we are hurting, we want time to hurry. When we regret, we want time to reverse. But time moves in only one direction. This seems cruel, yet it is the universe's greatest gift. If time did not move forward, we would be trapped. We would not grow. We would not change. We would not live fully. And so when we stop resisting the flow, we enter the deepest form of peace. By the end of this chapter, we begin to see the world of solid forms stirring with life, yet still waiting like a stage before the actors step out. Time is the opening bell, the first ripple that makes the props quiver. The lights spread, the characters appear. Space gives us a place. Time gives us a moment. Life is the intersection of both. An event happens only when where and when meet. This is the definition of a world that is truly alive. And as we understand that time does not merely push us forward, but also unveils new possibilities, a gentle question appears. Are there dimensions untouched by time? Are there when S and where S beyond the reach of our senses? This is the doorway to the universe, expanding beyond human intuition into 5D, 6D, and beyond. But before stepping onward, let your mind drift gently along the river of time like a leaf on the quiet nighttime stream. Time has begun to flow. Space has begun to move. World lines are weaving themselves into the fabric of life. And within that motion, it feels as though everything has settled into harmony, as though the four dimensions of length, width, depth, and time have blended into a single cosmic symphony. But if you listen closely beneath the gentle music of the universe, there is still a strange vibration. Soft as the touch of a fingertip grazing a quiet string. Thin as a breeze slipping through a door that has not yet been opened. Something that does not belong to the four familiar dimensions. A subtle trembling that makes us realize reality may be more than what we see. This is the moment when human thought begins to lean into a realm that cannot be perceived with the eyes, but can be sensed through the deep stillness within. The moment we step into the world of higher dimensions. Toward the end of the 20th century, physicists began asking a question. Are elementary particles truly points without dimension as we once believed? Or are they in truth tiny vibrating strings, each oscillating at a different frequency, giving rise to all forms of matter in the universe? This is the foundation of string theory. In The Elegant Universe, Brian Greene writes, according to string theory, the universe is a symphony of vibrating strings. If this is true, then the universe is not built of particles, but of music, of endless vibrations, of melodies forever beyond the reach of human hearing. And just as a guitar needs space for its sound to resonate, the strings of the universe need more than four dimensions to exist. Physicists call these additional realms the fifth, sixth, seventh dimensions and beyond. If 5D, 6D, and 7D exist, why can't we see them? The answer lies in a beautiful idea. These dimensions are compactified, curled up so small that they hide between the threads of the atom, smaller even than a cork. Imagine a long drinking straw. From far away, it looks like a single line, 1D. But up close, you see it has a diameter. It is 2D. Perhaps the universe is like that. We simply lack the ability to get close enough to perceive the curled dimensions. Higher dimensions are not absent. They are hidden like dreams, forgotten in the morning, yet still lingering in the unconscious. If each higher dimension holds different vibrational modes, then each mode could shape a different universe. A parallel reality where every physical law, every constant, every possibility might be entirely different. Among these universes, there could be worlds where time flows faster, worlds where gravity traps even the faintest light, worlds without atoms, worlds where life unfolds in unimaginable forms. This idea, often called the multiverse, echoes a thought once expressed by William James in The Will to Believe. Our universe might be only one in a plurality of worlds, a philosophical intuition now re-emerging as a physical possibility. String theory itself comes in many versions, type 2A, type 2B heterotic HE. For years, scientists treated them as separate stories, 5 different languages describing the same mystery. Until Edward Witten proposed something daring, all of them might be mere shadows cast by a single deeper theory, a theory that requires 11 dimensions. They named it M-theory. In Magic Without Magic, Wheeler suggested behind all mysteries lies another deeper mystery. M-theory is that whisper from the universe that behind the 4 familiar dimensions lies an 11-dimensional depth. Behind one world lie countless worlds. Behind reality lies a greater reality. Whenever our understanding reaches a boundary, the universe gently opens another door. But the beauty here is not only scientific, it is deeply internal. When we contemplate curled dimensions, we begin to recognize something within ourselves. We too contain folded layers, forgotten memories, suppressed emotions, parts of ourselves we have never seen, Jung wrote in Ion. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. The higher dimensions of the universe resemble the deeper dimensions of the psyche. They don't appear clearly yet, they influence every movement of our lives. They make no sound, yet they leave traces in every choice. And when we open ourselves to them, just as we open our imagination to the 10th or 11th dimension, we begin to understand ourselves more deeply. When you close your eyes and imagine these curled dimensions, it feels like wandering into a forest where each leaf is a separate universe, each breeze a quantum fluctuation, each whisper a message from a parallel world. Not to frighten you, but to remind you that reality is always bigger than your fears and your mind is always capable of traveling farther than you believe. Time does not merely lead us through this world, it leads us beyond it toward the possibility that there is not one universe but many, not one version of you but countless, not one future but infinitely many. After drifting through the shimmering mystery of higher dimensions, we will return to 2 minds that reshaped humanity's view of the cosmos, Minkowski and Einstein. They will weave together what we have just felt with logic, with mathematics, with the quiet elegance of equations. But before stepping into that clarity, let your mind drift a little longer in this gentle fog of wonder. This feeling that what you are hearing is not merely science, but the universe's own bedtime story. Leaving behind the soaring dimensions of string theory, where one can almost hear the faint trembling of strings smaller than light itself, we begin drifting back toward a region more familiar, yet no less mystical. A realm where even the things we think we understand, time, space, direction, motion, gently reveal that they have never been as simple as they seemed. In the quiet of night, when consciousness softens and the world turns inward, we can feel this truth more clearly. We are living inside a structure the eyes can never fully see, but the mind is always touching. A single woven entity known as spacetime. Imagine yourself standing at the horizon, a straight line stretching endlessly length. Behind you, mountains' depth. Above you, the sky, a 3-dimensional expanse without boundary. All of this feels familiar. And time. Time flows silently past you like a river that has never once looked back. St. Augustine wrote in Confessions, "What then is time? If no one asks me, I know. If I wish to explain it to one who asks, I know not. We live inside time, yet cannot hold it. We live inside space, yet cannot escape it." And for thousands of years, humanity believed the two were separate, like parallel lines destined never to touch. Until in 1908, a man stepped onto a lecture platform and changed everything. Hermann Minkowski, Einstein's former teacher, spoke the words that would ignite a revolution in how we see the universe. Space by itself and time by itself are doomed to fade away into mere shadows. And then he continued, only a kind of union of the two will preserve an independent reality. In that moment before an audience of students, a new truth was born. Space and time are not independent. They are one space-time, a 4-dimensional fabric where every grain of cosmic dust leaves a trail, a world line from the moment it appears to the moment it vanishes. Nothing stands still. Nothing exists alone. Everything moves through space-time. The world is no longer a 3-dimensional stage where events unfold in time. The world is time and space interwoven a single breathing architecture. Then came Albert Einstein, who took Minkowski's intuition and transformed it into a complete, elegant system. If Minkowski spoke the language of geometric insight, Einstein spoke the language of equations, crystalline, inevitable, and quietly poetic. In Relativity. The special and general theory, Einstein wrote, there is no such thing as an empty space, i.e., a space without field. What does this mean? It means space is not empty. Space is not a void. Space is alive, a physical entity. And time is the same. Einstein pulled back the veil from space-time. He showed us that matter does not merely sit in space, it bends space. And time, which we assume to be constant, flows differently depending on how fast you move or how close you stand to something massive. Move quickly, and your time slows. Stand near something heavy, and your time bends. The universe, it turns out, is not rigid. It is soft like fabric. It stretches, curves, ripples, breathes with the presence of every star, every planet, every being. A truth so delicate it quiets the soul. From the physical space-time, we begin to glimpse the space-time of the human spirit. A lifetime seen through the lens of Minkowski and Einstein is a world line flowing gently through where and when. We do not merely exist in space. We do not merely drift through time. We are woven from both. And just as the world lines of stars intersect only in rare cosmic moments, so too do human lives crossing, touching, separating, shaping one another for a brief instant in the vast unfolding of existence. Kierkegaard wrote, "In either or life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards." We understand our world line only when we look behind us, but we can follow it only by walking forward. Space and time, once simple ideas, now become a gentle poem of physics. We no longer ask, "What is time?" Instead, we ask, "Where am I standing within space-time? Where is my world line moving? What meetings, what intersections are waiting for me ahead?" We return to a deeper layer of truth. If higher dimensional theories are science's fairy tales, dazzling, mythic, full of wonder, then Minkowski and Einstein place our feet back on the ground. But it is a ground that moves, that curves, that breathes. A ground where every step is a point on a world line. A ground where the universe reveals itself not as a place we inhabit, but as a fabric that holds us gently within it. And now that space-time has unfolded before us, now that we feel the universe breathing as a four-dimensional tapestry, we approach the next question. If time can stretch and bend, what is it truly? If each person carries a different clock, what sets the rhythm of a life? But before we go there, let your mind rest. Let it sink softly into the slow, steady breathing of the cosmos. And let space-time lull you into sleep. From the space-time revolution of Minkowski and Einstein, where space and time fused into a single woven fabric, we step into a stranger land, a place where intuition begins to fail, where every rule we once trusted blurs softly, then dissolves like smoke in the dim air. As this familiar light fades, we are left with something dreamlike, as if we are watching reality through a misted pane of glass. For now we enter the realm of relative time, and beyond it, the quantum nature of existence. In daily life, we believe time is the one thing that never changes. It moves steadily like the beat of a clock on the wall, like the quiet breath of the night. But Einstein shattered that comfort. In Relativity, the Special and General Theory, he wrote, "Time is relative. It depends on the state of motion of the observer." A simple sentence, yet enough to unsettle the very foundation of human understanding. Time is not the same for everyone. If you move faster, your time flows slower. If you stand closer to something massive, your time bends, softens, contracts. In the silence of the cosmos, each of us carries a private clock ticking at a rhythm we ourselves cannot perceive. An astronaut orbiting Earth for a few months returns slightly younger than those who remained below. Only a few milliseconds, but enough to whisper a profound truth: time is not absolute. The moment we understand this, the world opens another door, a door leading directly into the fragility of reality. And from physics, we drift softly into philosophy. If physical time is already uneven, what about the time inside us? There are days longer than a year, and years that vanish in an hour. Wounds that remain unhealed after decades, moments lasting only seconds, but echoing in memory forever. Kierkegaard wrote, "In either or. The moment is not properly an atom of time, but an atom of eternity. The moments that truly touch us do not belong to linear time. They belong to another kind, a time that is soft fluid, where memory and emotion blend like colors in water. Physics says each of us has our own tempo of time. Philosophy says each of us has our own tempo of the soul. And slowly we begin to see no one lives fast or slow exactly like another. No one ages in perfect rhythm with the world. No two clocks are the same. Leaving the gentle curvature of time, we descend into a realm where reality itself becomes strange. The quantum world, where particles smaller than atoms behave like playful children, never doing what we expect. They can exist in two places at once. They can choose their path after they have already traveled it. They change simply because we look at them. In The Character of Physical Law, Richard Feynman wrote, "I think I can safely say that nobody understands quantum mechanics." And strangely, this very unknowability draws us closer to the universe, because life itself behaves the same way, ambiguous, unpredictable, impossible to fully grasp. The quantum world is not absurd. It is simply a truth far beyond the reach of human intuition. Much like our own emotions, which do not follow geometry nor linear logic, but move in soft, shifting waves that cannot be measured, in quantum space-time becomes fog-like. Some theories suggest the future and the past may influence each other. Particles do not choose a state until they are observed. Multiple possibilities exist at once, like layered melodies in a dream. Time at the quantum level is not a flowing river. It is a mist expanding in every direction. When we close our eyes at night, many of us have felt time expand as if a minute grows longer than a minute or shorter. As if we have briefly stepped into a quantum intersection, a place where boundaries soften. This is not just physics. It is the story of how each person lives. We often blame ourselves for going too slowly or take pride in moving quickly. But physics whispers time was never uniform. And philosophy replies, every life has its own unfolding. In the quiet of the universe, every world line, every personal rhythm of time is valid, is beautiful in its own way. So let us ease the mind now, as if standing on a hilltop and slowly walking down into a valley filled with morning haze. Because the next place we go is not the vast outer cosmos, but the small hidden world inside every object where time flows in rhythms no one could ever predict. And when we finish wandering through these soft quantum currents, we will return to the human world, to a warm, proud chapter of our species, the Chandrayaan-3 journey into the shadowed south pole of the moon. When physics comes home to Earth, we too return to the footprints humans have left on the dust of the cosmos. After drifting through the misty realms of relative time and quantum uncertainty, where even a single particle of light can exist in many places at once, we return to the world of human beings. A small world, yet astonishingly resilient, where we, with our finite hands, still dare to reach for the infinite. A world that proves one quiet truth: when humanity spends its time pursuing knowledge, a miracle always follows. And that miracle bears the name Chandrayaan-3, a small spacecraft carrying the hopes of millions, traveling over 380,000 kilometers toward a place no sunlight ever reaches. The moon's south pole is a land where night lasts for millions of years. Not because stars are absent, but because towering cliffs block the sun, holding the darkness like an ancient secret. In that darkness, temperatures can drop to 180 degrees Celsius. There lie frozen lakes that have never melted, dust grains untouched for billions of years, and perhaps clues to the earliest history of the solar system. Chandrayaan-3 was sent there not because it was easy, but precisely because no one had succeeded before. John F. Kennedy once said at Rice University, "We choose to go to the moon not because they are easy, but because they are hard." India chose the hard path, and in the silence of space, that choice echoed for a very long time. When Vikram, the lander module, began its final descent, millions of hearts paused with it. At that distance, no mistake can be corrected. Only trust remains. Trust in thousands of calculations, in the engineers who stayed awake through countless nights, and in humanity's collective dream. Then, thud. Soft. So soft. Vikram touched the lunar surface the way a tired bird settles into its nest. The South Pole, the eternal night, finally held the footprint of humankind. The moment the lander touched down, its instruments began listening. The moon has no atmosphere like the Earth, but it does have an exosphere so thin that each molecule of gas sits meters apart from the next. Chandrayaan-3 measured the density of that ghostly layer, how the particles respond to sunlight, and subtle fluctuations like the faint breathing of a sleeping world. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "Observe constantly that all things take place by change. Even the moon, which seems forever, still changes, breathes, carries its own silent rhythm." One instrument aboard Chandrayaan-3 chased, made a discovery that stunned scientists. Just centimeters beneath the lunar soil, the temperature drops from 140 degrees to a freezing 14 degrees. A sudden collapse, a whisper from ancient regolith. Yet buried within this contrast is a hint of the future. The moon's soil may serve as a natural insulating blanket, a protector for future shelters humanity might build on the lunar surface. These discoveries are not loud, not dramatic. They arrive like quiet messages from a distant world, reminding us it has always been waiting. When the rover Progyon scanned the ground with its laser, it found sulfur. A small element, but one holding the story of volcanoes, of geologic fire, of ancient upheavals that shaped the moon, long before humanity looked up and named it. Sulfur is a signature of origins, a half-burned page from the moon's earliest diary, and Chandrayaan-3 was the first to read it. Nietzsche wrote in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, "One must still have chaos in oneself to be able to give birth to a dancing star." Perhaps the moon in its distant past carried such chaos within, so that today it may shine as a quiet dancing star in the stories of humankind. Inside the darkness, the ILSA instrument detected a faint tremor, a moonquake, the first recorded in over 50 years. If you stood there, you would hear nothing. The air is too thin to carry sound, but the ground spoke, a murmur from deep within the moon, as though a being asleep for billions of years shifted slightly under its blanket of dust. Chandrayaan-3 is not merely a scientific achievement. It is a reminder that even in an immeasurable universe, humanity can still leave a trace of its light. It is a warm pride for one nation and an inspiration for all nations. And its inspiration does not blaze like a spotlight. It glows like a candle in the night, small but steadfast, silent but deeply warming. From the shimmering uncertainties of quantum particles, we look to the moon and see the trembling of a very real world. From the personal clock each of us carries, we now see the ancient clock of the moon, its moonquakes, its frozen shadows, its whisper-thin exosphere. And after touching the moon, our journey widens again toward worlds that may hold even more potential for life than planets themselves, exomoons, the moons beyond our solar system. But for now, let us rest with the quiet truth. Chandrayaan-3 has given us that even in the coldest darkness, humanity can plant a small flame and watch it glow in the cosmic night. After leaving the moon, where Chandrayaan-3 placed human footprints upon a darkness untouched for billions of years, our journey carries us farther still. Far beyond any familiar planet, beyond any orbit we can picture, into a realm of faint, soft lights scattered across a deep and endless sky. These are hopes. These are hidden worlds. These are distant moons, exomoons. Like quiet oases in the desert of space, they do not shine like planets, nor blaze like stars, yet they hold something profoundly special, the potential to cradle life. For decades, humanity searched for life primarily on planets on Earth 2.0s and Goldilocks zones, worlds bathed in just the right amount of starlight. But science has gently shifted that perspective. A new question emerged: what truly makes a world capable of nurturing life? And surprisingly, the answer may not lie in the largest planets, but in the moons hidden beneath their shadows. Unassuming, silent, never the center of attention, yet holding conditions stranger, richer, and sometimes more welcoming than planets themselves. Carl Sagan wrote in Cosmos, "Somewhere something incredible is waiting to be known. Perhaps that incredible thing rests beneath the ice of some distant exomoon." Earth has one source of warmth, the sun, but exomoons may have two, the light from their star and the gravitational pull of the giant planet they orbit. This pull stretches and squeezes them, heating their cores, just as it does with Jupiter's Europa and Saturn's Enceladus, a world warmed not only from outside but from within. This is what makes exomoons so extraordinary. Even if the star of their system grows dim, even if thick ice blankets their surfaces, life may still thrive in the warm, hidden oceans below. And you see, sometimes the coldest worlds hide the warmest waters, just like the human heart. One of Cassini's great discoveries at Enceladus was that water shoots from beneath its frozen crust into space. A revelation: an ocean does not need a sky above it. It can rest beneath layers of ice, tens of kilometers thick. Models suggest hundreds, thousands of exomoons across the galaxy may hold such oceans, vast eternal seas and perpetual night where pressure remains stable. Heat flows gently from within, and minerals dissolve into warm currents. In The Blind Watchmaker, Richard Dawkins wrote, "Life results from the non-random survival of randomly varying replicators." If oceans are the cradle of life, then exomoons with their steady geothermal energy may be even more suitable for life than planets. Perhaps life does not require blue skies. Perhaps it does not need sunlight, no mountains, no wind. Perhaps a single warm droplet beneath ice is enough to begin everything. When exomoons are stretched and compressed by their parent planets, they tremble with tidal heat, a subtle pulse, a quiet heartbeat of worlds unseen. Geology in this darkness is not the eruption of volcanoes, but the flowing of hidden energy. Ice cracking, cores melting, steam rising, minerals drifting, all taking place in silence, never seen yet, forming the foundation of life. Nietzsche wrote in Beyond Good and Evil, you must have chaos within you to give birth to a dancing star. Exomoons are like that, carrying within them a gentle, necessary chaos, just enough to spark something miraculous. But there is a challenge. Exomoons are small compared to their planets. They are overshadowed by the bright glare of their giants. Their signals are faint like footsteps on fresh winter snow. Most of what we know about exomoons does not come from photographs, but from tiny fluctuations in starlight so subtle they seem more like whispers than data. And because of that, exomoons have become symbols of fragile hope, like a thin crescent moon, small yet capable of illuminating an entire story. Hope that somewhere beneath the shadow of a distant world, an ocean gently laps against an icy shore, and perhaps shelters a form of life we have never imagined. The universe holds moons larger, deeper, more mysterious than any we have reached. They are like locked doors in the night, but the small, steady light of science has begun slipping through their cracks. And so we continue the journey not with haste, but with slow, hopeful breathing. For as we speak of warm worlds hidden beneath planetary shadows, our next step brings us toward a giant of ice, a world whose mysteries are stranger still, Saturn, the planet of vanishing rings and its eternal hexagon storm. As we leave behind the exomoons hidden beneath the shadows of giant planets, those quiet worlds that warm their oceans beneath blankets of ancient ice, the sky calls us toward another place. A place where pale golden light drifts outward like a distant invitation. A place that from afar resembles a lantern hung in the cosmic dark Saturn. If Jupiter is the tempestuous god of storms, then Saturn is the mysterious poet of the heavens, an old soul beautiful to the point of unreality. In The Gay Science, Nietzsche wrote, and those who were seen dancing were thought to be insane by those who could not hear the music. Saturn is that dance so impossibly beautiful that one hesitates to believe it is real, as though its image were not astronomy, but metaphysics painted by the imagination of the infinite. From a distance, Saturn's rings look eternal like silken ribbons that have existed since the dawn of time, but their truth is far more fragile. Data from the Cassini spacecraft revealed that Saturn's rings are astonishingly young, only 100 to 400 million years old, a mere child compared to the 4.5 billion year age of the planet itself, meaning that when dinosaurs walked across Earth, Saturn's rings may not have existed at all. And the beauty grows even more delicate when we learn the rings are disappearing. Ring rain, tiny grains of ice dust and charged particles fall into Saturn's atmosphere drawn by its magnetic field. Cassini measured that each second, thousands of kilograms of ring material evaporate into the planet below. If you listen closely, you might imagine the sound of it like gentle dust rain falling on the roof of a distant world. One day, the rings will vanish. Saturn will stand bare. Its surreal beauty will survive only in memory, so fragile and so deeply human. For what is most beautiful is rarely what lasts. If the rings represent beauty, then Saturn's North Pole holds something else, an obsession. A storm shaped like a perfect hexagon, a structure impossibly geometric stable for decades and twice the width of the Earth. In nature, perfect geometry is rare, but here not only does it appear, it endures. A jet stream that circles endlessly, yet refuses to form a circle, locking itself into 6 unwavering sides, as though an unseen artist were tracing it with a cosmic compass. Pythagoras once said, "Number rules the universe," and at Saturn's pole, the number 6 reveals itself not as mathematics alone, but as a bewildering dance of fluid dynamics, a mystery carved into storm and shadow. Viewing it through Cassini's images, one feels they are seeing an ancient symbol of the cosmos written in a language the human mind has not yet learned to read. Saturn is the only planet in our solar system with a density lower than water. If there were an ocean vast enough, Saturn could float. The idea is strange. A giant, heavy, somber planet, yet so light in essence that it might drift like a leaf. A quiet metaphor for human emotion, what appears weighty is often far more delicate within. The rings are beautiful but fading. The hexagon storm has raged for decades, yet no one knows how it began. The golden glow around the planet feels both intimate and unreachable. Saturn is a meditation on impermanence, a reminder that every structure, no matter how flawless, eventually dissolves back into the vastness. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "All is ephemeral fame, and the famous as well." Not only people, not only cities, but even the most extraordinary rings of a distant world live under that same law. And because they are impermanent, their beauty touches us more deeply, because they will fade. Saturn feels like a dream, soft, transient, trembling at the edge of night. Viewed from afar, when sunlight streams through its rings, everything becomes light as dust. Not a sharp beauty, but a gentle one like moonlight resting on a window pane at midnight. Saturn reminds us of our smallness, and within that smallness, a profound peace. Like meditation, when we finally accept we are only a speck on a cosmic tapestry, a deep stillness appears. No struggle, no fear, only breath and the soft vastness of the universe. From the hidden oceans of exomoons, we look upward and see another kind of world, not hidden, but radiant in its strange and golden quiet. If exomoons are oases in the cosmic night, then Saturn is a mysterious temple floating among the stars, adorned with fragile rings and an impossible hexagonal storm. The journey continues, drawing us further into wonder toward stranger tales, toward worlds even more remote. But before we move on, let Saturn cradle you in a moment of peace, a slow breath, a soft pause. For when we leave Saturn, we will step toward its two most extraordinary moons, Titan and Enceladus, where underground oceans, liquid methane, and hydrothermal vents carry the quiet hope of primordial life. A warm story awaits there, and a deep one, much like our own unfolding journey through the universe. As the pale golden glow of Saturn fades quietly behind us, we begin turning toward two small worlds that carry something profoundly familiar, something even the largest planets cannot offer: the possibility of life. If Saturn is a mysterious poem written in rings and geometry, then Titan and Enceladus are the whispered lines of that poem, soft, subtle, yet carrying a depth that echoes a question humanity has carried since its earliest breath. Are we truly alone? Titan, the world of orange twilight. Titan is the only moon in the solar system, with a thick atmosphere so thick that sunlight passing through it turns into a muted amber glow, like an eternal sunset stretched across the sky. There, in valleys chilled to 179 degrees, lie lakes of liquid methane, dark rivers, and methane rainfall that drifts down onto golden terrain like drops of cold glass. It is not water. It is not life as we know it, but it is chemistry, movement, cycles. Carl Sagan wrote in The Varieties of Scientific Experience, "If we are alone in the universe, it sure seems like an awful waste of space." Looking at Titan, that line feels gentle but piercing. The universe did not need to craft a world like Titan, yet it did. As if whispering, look carefully. Life may begin in more ways than you imagine. In Titan's atmosphere, ultraviolet sunlight breaks apart methane, forming complex organic molecules called tholins, the chemical seeds of life. Titan does not need oceans to create organic chemistry. It does so in its sky, in its haze, and the quiet rain of molecules drifting downward. A world can be cold silent, shrouded in amber dimness, and still profoundly creative. As Nietzsche wrote in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, there is more wisdom in your body than in your deepest philosophy. Perhaps Titan, too, holds a wisdom that needs no philosophy, no sky-blue warmth to express the universe's desire to explore every possible path toward life. Enceladus, the world of hidden oceans. If Titan is a moon of atmosphere, Enceladus is a moon of water. A tiny world, its icy shell gleaming white like a frozen pearl drifting through space. From afar, Enceladus appears simple, fragile, almost silent. But beneath its frozen crust lies a global ocean, deep and dark, yet warm from the heat of hydrothermal vents at the seafloor. When the Cassini spacecraft flew over Enceladus's south pole, it witnessed geysers, immense plumes of water and ice bursting into space, like the gentle exhalations of a sleeping being. Inside those icy grains, scientists found salt methane complex organic molecules and evidence of hydrothermal vents, the same type of underwater chimneys where life on Earth may have begun. It was as though Enceladus whispered, I too can attempt the miracle of life. We often assume life needs blue skies, sunlight, continents, but Earth has already shown us a deeper truth: life can bloom in darkness underwater beside volcanic vents hidden far beneath the sea. So why not Enceladus, a world with water, heat, minerals, and energy flowing through cracks in its icy heart? Life there need not resemble us. It could be ancient bacteria, simple cells, or drifting organic frameworks, learning how to endure. But even a single cell, a single replicating molecule would answer humanity's oldest question with a quiet, luminous truth: we were never alone. Two moons. One message: Titan shows us a world crafting organic chemistry without water. Enceladus shows us an ocean warm beneath a frozen shell like a beating heart hidden under cold armor. Together, they whisper, life does not need to follow our rules. Life only needs a chance, a place to begin, and time. Albert Camus wrote in The Myth of Sisyphus, the struggle itself toward the heights is enough to fill a man's heart. Perhaps the universe is the same. It does not require a perfect ending nor a complete answer, the pursuit of life. The attempt is enough to make its story beautiful. Leaving Saturn with its melting rings and eternal hexagon storm, we step softly toward Titan and Enceladus, as though approaching a gentler landscape, a warmer place, a pair of small lanterns in the cold night, illuminating the question that has chased humanity for millennia. And when we listen to Titan and Enceladus, we are listening not only to them but to our own quiet longing. Are we truly alone as we drift away from Titan and Enceladus, two small gentle worlds where life may be quietly breathing beneath the ice? Our journey leads us somewhere different, somewhere that does not belong to planets or moons, nor to atmospheres or oceans, but to the very essence of life itself. If the previous chapter showed us where life might exist, this chapter asks a deeper, more ancient question. What is life? In The Eye of the Needle, G.K. Chesterton wrote, life is not an illogicality, yet it is a mystery. And here we step into both its logic and its mystery. Entropy, the quiet force pulling everything apart. One of the universe's fundamental laws is entropy, the slow drift toward disorder, dissolution, and randomness. A warm cup of water cools, a drop of ink spreads through a glass, a house left alone decays into dust. Everything moves toward flatness, toward maximum chaos, toward the loss of structure. It is as though the universe whispers, let everything soften, scatter, and dissolve. And then life appears, fragile, temporary, almost improbable, yet performing an act that defies the entire cosmic trend. Life creates structure. Life pushes back against entropy by weaving information into matter, like a small candle standing firm in a freezing wind, yet still burning. Assembly theory. Life as a builder of complexity. Assembly theory, proposed by Sarah Walker and Lee Cronin, offers a beautiful idea. Every molecule carries a history, the number of steps required to assemble it. A simple molecule may appear by chance, but complex molecules, DNA, proteins, organic compounds require many assembly steps. Those steps almost never happen randomly. They are signs of a system that is quietly resisting entropy. Meaning whenever we see a complex molecule, we are witnessing the trace of life, a fingerprint left in chemistry. Richard Dawkins wrote in The Selfish Gene Biology is the study of complicated things that give the appearance of having been designed for a purpose. Assembly theory agrees, but instead of calling it purpose, it calls it assembly index, a measure of the effort required to build complexity. If the universe is a river of entropy, then life is like small stones scattered across the current, diverting the water just slightly. Not dramatically, but enough to matter. Life does not fight entropy with noise or violence. It works gently, linking one molecule to another, storing information in DNA's spiral script, passing structure from generation to generation. As though a patient artisan sits in a silent room, fitting tiny pieces together, slowly creating a tapestry. We call that tapestry life. Life as an arrangement, not a thing. In Being and Time, Heidegger wrote, the being of beings is not itself a being. Life reflects this truth. Life is not located in any single molecule, not in a strand of DNA, not in a drop of cytoplasm, but in the arrangement, the relational structure, the pattern that emerges when matter organizes itself beyond chance. The universe says all things must dissolve into disorder. Life replies, in one small corner I will create order. Just a corner, just a fragile refuge, but enough. Enough to bloom flowers, enough to build oceans, enough to create human beings, enough to give rise to the consciousness listening to these words. Assembly theory suggests this. When life emerges, the universe begins producing information that surpasses randomness. Information awakens from the stillness of molecules, rises through the architecture of DNA, and glows softly in the human mind. Perhaps that is why Carl Jung writes in Memories, Dreams, Reflections, who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes. Life is not just biology. It is the universe becoming self-aware. The cosmos reorganizing itself through memory, connection, complexity, through living beings who whisper meaning into the void. The assembly index, mathematics with a heartbeat. The assembly index is a mathematical idea, the number of steps needed to build a molecule. But when we look more deeply, it is not only mathematics, it is meditation. Life assembles itself quietly, connecting, remembering, inheriting, unfolding, going against the wind, finding its way through the darkness of entropy. Life is like a pilgrim walking through the night, each step lighting a small lantern, illuminating just enough of the path for the next step to appear. Life is the universe, arranging itself as we depart. Titan and Enceladus, places where life might begin, we realize a soft truth. Life is not found only in water, light, or oceans. Life is found in the way the universe organizes itself, one molecule at a time. From methane chemistry on Titan to hydrothermal oceans on Enceladus, we now step into a realm of numbers and structures, yet somehow within that mathematics, we feel the quiet heartbeat of the cosmos. Because life at its core is the universe leaning gently away from chaos to create something ordered, beautiful, and deeply, quietly alive. As we step away from assembly theory, where life became a melody of molecules and a quiet poem of information, we begin to realize something subtle and profound. Perhaps for decades we have been asking the wrong question. Not where is the water, not where is the oxygen, but rather where is the information. Life does not need carbon. Life does not need water. Life does not need oxygen. Life in its most delicate and universal form is a process that creates order within chaos. And so instead of searching for elements familiar to Earth, science has begun searching for patterns, for rhythms, for structures, for coincidences too meaningful to be random, for tiny touch marks of natural intelligence. There was a time when NASA believed that finding life meant finding water. Follow the water, the motto of an entire era of exploration. But after Titan, Enceladus, Europa worlds that hold oceans yet offer no free oxygen, we learned that life may choose its own paths, paths unlike anything on Earth. A world may be cold, lightless, airless, and still hold molecules so complex that entropy alone could never have crafted them. Richard Dawkins wrote in The Blind Watchmaker, "Complexity is not the same as randomness." And in this difference, we discover a new compass for humanity's search for life. Do not look for life. Look for what only life can create. Not a face, not a footprint, but a signature, quiet, anonymous, undeniable, like footsteps in snow left by someone you cannot see. Information, the universe's unspoken language. Information is not letters, not sound, not words. In the universe's language, information is structure. DNA is a type of information, but so is a complex polymer drifting in Titan's atmosphere. So is a molecule that survives longer than chance would suggest. So is a repeating chemical pattern written in nothing more than methane, ice, and time. Carl Sagan wrote in Cosmos, "We are a way for the universe to know itself. If so, then information is how the universe whispers to itself that it has never stopped creating." Entropy wants everything to fall apart, to unravel into randomness, to soften into silence. But life refuses. It gathers fragments from 2 atoms to 10 to 100 to 1,000 to a cell to a living being. Life is the universe sitting in the dark and patiently arranging its own pieces into meaning. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "What stands in the way becomes the way." Entropy is the obstacle, but entropy is also the canvas. Without darkness, a candle cannot glow. Searching for complexity. A new astronomy. When we search for water, we search for Earth. When we search for oxygen, we search for mirrors of ourselves. But when we search for complexity, we search for the universe on its own terms. We study the atmosphere of distant planets and ask, is there any structure here too complex to be random? We examine starlight through a spectroscope and whisper, is this pattern a wordless message? We explore chemical chains and wonder, is something trying to organize itself? This is more than science. This is a spiritual practice. Because every time we find a sign of structure in the dark, we feel as though we have heard the subtle breathing of another world. The feeling of this chapter should feel like standing in a long corridor of an ancient library, each door a different planet, each faint glow within them, a spark of complexity calling softly. No noise, only quiet light, only breath, only the gentle astonishment of tiny things revealing great truths, from mathematics to astronomy. From molecules to potential worlds, from the curves of entropy to the patterns of hope. There is no need for dramatic transitions, only a soft step as if moving from one silent room to another in the same house of knowledge. And then the cosmic tapestry appears. Now that we know how to search for life by following the traces of information, our path unfolds toward a grander sight, the cosmic web. the immense lattice of the universe where galaxies, stars, and even grains of cosmic dust are connected by invisible threads of dark matter. An image vast yet profoundly peaceful, like the universe opening its arms to gather all things into a single, gentle embrace. After leaving behind the intricate molecules of the previous chapter, where we learn to search for life through the faint fingerprints of information, our journey suddenly widens. As though we've stepped from a small doorway into a larger one, and then a larger one still, until the entire sky unfurls before us. From the delicate patterns within molecules, we now drift into the largest pattern the universe has ever created. The cosmic web, a colossal tapestry woven from light and dark matter. In this place, every galaxy is just a grain of dust, and each of us only a dim spark within one of those grains. But this is not loneliness. This is belonging. There was a time when humanity believed the universe was random stars scattered carelessly across an empty void. No direction, no order, no meaning. But studies of the cosmic microwave background and simulations like the Millennium Project revealed the opposite. The universe has structure, a structure more delicate, more mathematical, more poetic than any mind could have imagined. Like a spiderweb glistening at dawn, each filament is placed according to a mysterious harmony. Carl Sagan wrote in Cosmos, "The beauty of a living thing is not the atoms that go into it, but the way those atoms are put together." Replace living thing with universe, and the sentence remains true. The universe is beautiful not because it is large, but because of how it is woven. Filaments, the glowing threads of the cosmos. The cosmic web is made of filaments, enormous strands of dark matter and hot gas stretching hundreds of millions of light years. Imagine staring at a black silk scarf embroidered with silver threads shimmering gently across its surface. Those are the filaments. Galaxies do not sit randomly. They cling to these strands the way droplets of dew cling to spider silk, quiet, delicate, perfectly placed. These filaments overwhelm the mind, yet bring a strange sense of meditation. They flow through space like silent rivers connecting everything to everything else. Dark matter cannot be seen, cannot be touched, cannot be felt directly. Yet it exists more abundantly than the matter we know. It is the invisible string that holds the universe in shape, preventing galaxies from drifting into nothingness. William James wrote in The Varieties of Religious Experience, "The unseen region is not merely ideal, but real. It is merely unseen. Dark matter is that unseen region, real, omnipresent, quietly shaping the cosmos. Like trust, like love, like consciousness. Invisible yet undeniable. Superclusters, the islands of light. The largest structures in the universe are superclusters, vast archipelagos of galaxies floating on the infinite ocean of space. And even these do not appear randomly. Superclusters gather at the nodes of the cosmic web like beads collecting at the intersections of a woven net. This image teaches us something profound. The universe is not a chaotic ocean of stars. It is a poem of structure written in a language older than light. When we gaze upon the cosmic web, we stop seeing ourselves as the center of anything. Every galaxy is just a point in the network, every star a flicker, every planet a speck, and humanity a momentary shimmer on that speck. And yet the smaller we feel, the calmer we become. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together." The cosmic web reminds us that we are not isolated. We are part of a vast network of space, of time, and of human connection. We arrive in one another's lives not by accident. We are woven into the same fabric. And this realization carries a beauty so gentle it silences the heart. A cosmic meditation, the listener should feel themselves dissolving into the universe, not in fear but in peace. As if every worry, every question, every restless thought of the long day softens gently in front of the cosmic web. We realize there are things too vast for us to control, mysteries too deep for us to fully understand, and beauties meant only to be witnessed. In that witnessing, a meditative stillness arises. No effort, no striving, just breath and the soft drifting along the invisible filaments of the cosmos. Toward the beginning of everything, after beholding the great lattice of the universe, the next step is to look deeper still into the oldest galaxies, the first glimmers of light born after the Big Bang. Captured by the James Webb Space Telescope, these ancient sparks are like the universe's earliest memories, echoes from 13 billion years ago. And so the journey continues into the 13 billion year past, a path both mystical and soothing, like the distant hum of the first light that ever existed. As we drift away from the vast cosmic web, the glowing lattice that shapes today's universe, A gentle question begins to form in the quiet corners of the mind. If this is the structure of the universe now, then what did everything look like at the very beginning? The question rises like a small spring emerging from a hidden crack in a mountainside, guiding us backward through time toward the source of all light. And the instrument that carries us deepest into that primordial past is the James Webb Space Telescope, the oldest light in the night. In the darkness of space, tiny grains of ancient light drift toward you, fragile, quiet, but determined in a way that feels almost supernatural. These photons left their home stars more than 13 billion years ago, from an age before spiral galaxies existed, before supernovae carved metals into space, before the universe had even learned how to shine. They traveled through cold, endless vacuum, through regions where nothing lived, where silence was the only language, through the stretching fabric of expanding space, until at last they touched the golden mirror of James Webb. One trembling moment of contact, one photon arriving, and the ancient universe awakens again. Nietzsche once wrote in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, "All truly great thoughts are conceived while walking." The universe too forms its greatest ideas in the quiet journey of its wandering light. Redshift, the whisper of a young universe. To see deep into the past, we must listen for one thing. Redshift, as the universe expands, light from distant galaxies is stretched, pulled into deeper, redder tones, like a piece of music elongated across billions of years. Redshift 9, Redshift 10, Redshift 11. These are not merely scientific numbers. They are whispers. This is the light of the universe. 500 million years after the Big Bang. A time when the cosmos was still learning how to glow. If the cosmic web of the previous chapter is the adult body of the universe, then these redshift galaxies are the ultrasound images of the universe as a newborn. James Webb, the artist in the dark. James Webb is not just an instrument. It is an artist standing in space, waiting for drops of ancient starlight to fall into its open hands. Its hexagonal golden mirrors unfold like a metallic flower blooming in the void. It does not hear sound. It does not see with eyes the way we do. It listens to stretched light as if practicing a form of cosmic meditation. When the first galaxies appear, dim, grainy, trembling with youth, we understand that we are truly gazing into the universe's earliest memories. Carl Sagan once said in Cosmos, "We are a way for the cosmos to know itself." And James Webb is precisely that, the universe looking back at its own childhood. The first galaxies, simple, clumsy, miraculous galaxies at redshift 911, are not the majestic spirals we know today. They have no perfect arms, no grand structure, no glowing halos. They are small, rough, primitive, like the very first drawings of a child holding a crayon. But that is exactly why they are beautiful. The universe, too, once stumbled, once experimented, once struggled to combine dust and gas into the first stars. From that early chaos, the first starlight burst forth, and within those first stars, the heavy elements were forged: carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, the ingredients that later built oceans, forests, humans. It means this: we are seeing the moment when the conditions for life first appeared. The universe's diary, and we are reading its first pages. These ancient galaxies are like the opening pages of a journal we never expected to find. They reveal why today's universe forms the cosmic web, why galaxies cluster in patterns, how dark matter shaped everything, and ultimately how life became possible. When we look at these galaxies, we are not just looking at the distant past. We are gazing at our own origin. The elements inside our bodies were born in stars that emerged during this very era. Carl Sagan said, "We are made of star stuff." And when we look at galaxies at redshift 11, we are looking at the cradle of that star stuff. A scene for sleep, more light than explanation. For a sleep story, this chapter is especially tender. Instead of overwhelming the mind with detail, we speak as if gazing into a mirrored lake at night, shimmering shapes, soft colors, ancient light, drifting like fireflies. The listener should feel themselves floating through stretched light, drifting through the breath of a newborn cosmos, standing at the edge of time, watching 13 billion years unfold silently before them. Not fear at the vastness, but peace. The peace of knowing the universe was once small, young, fragile, just like us. Toward the forgotten world of Pluto, and as that ancient light fades again into the dark, our journey returns towards something closer, a tiny, frozen world resting quietly at the edge of our own solar system. A world icy but gentle, beautiful in its stillness, waiting patiently for us to rediscover it. Pluto, the frozen heart at the solar system's frontier. If this chapter was the universe's earliest memory, then Pluto is one of its forgotten ones. And so, we turn the next page of the cosmic book. As the stretched red glow of ancient galaxies fades gently into silence, our journey begins to draw us closer, not toward brilliant young stars, nor toward lively worlds brimming with possibility like Titan or Enceladus. Instead, we drift toward the frontier of the solar system, a region so distant that even sunlight requires hours to arrive. A world cold, dim, quiet, yet beautiful in a strangely human way. Pluto. Its name feels like a winter breath brief cold, but lingering long after it's spoken. A world once honored, once forgotten, yet unchanged. There was a time when Pluto sat proudly in school textbooks as the ninth planet. Then definitions shifted, theories matured, and Pluto was gently lowered from its pedestal, reclassified as a dwarf planet. But perhaps as Carl Jung wrote in Memories, Dreams, Reflections, the least of things with a meaning is worth more in life than the greatest of things without one. Pluto, small, quiet, understated, has never lost its meaning. If anything, the removal of its title only made its beauty feel purer. The heart of Pluto, a frozen pulse, seen from afar, the first feature that draws your gaze is a bright white heart across its surface. A vast icy-shaped Sputnik Planitia, smooth, pale, and quietly luminous. It is not a symbol by accident. It is a basin of deep nitrogen ice flowing slowly like a frozen river suspended in time. This ice is not still. It shifts slowly, tenderly, like the faint pulse of a hibernating heart. We look at Pluto and we see ourselves on the days when we lie still, believing we have no strength left. Yet inside life continues to move softly. Pluto's blue sky, a whisper of beauty. Few people know that Pluto has a blue atmosphere. Not as rich as Earth's, not as vast as Titan's, but a pale, delicate blue like breath on a frosted window at dawn. When New Horizons captured this image, scientists fell silent, not out of shock, but out of reverence. Rilke wrote in letters to a young poet, "Beauty is nothing but the beginning of terror we can just barely endure." The beauty of Pluto is like that, so fragile, so distant, that the moment your heart touches it, you feel a soft ache. A frozen world that refuses to die, Pluto is so cold that water cannot exist as liquid. Its surface lies below 220 degrees Celsius. Hearing this one might imagine a dead world. But no. New Horizons revealed mountains as tall as the Rockies made of water ice hard as stone. Glaciers of nitrogen shifting slowly across the surface. Young plains untouched by ancient craters. Hints, quiet, subtle, of a warm subsurface ocean. Small, deep, hidden, but enough to keep this world gently alive. Pluto teaches us a tender truth. Not everything silent is fading. Not everything cold is dead. Some forms of life choose to root themselves in stillness. Time moves differently here. A year on Pluto lasts 248 Earth years. Each season lasts decades. Imagine a winter that spans 40 years, a summer that holds for 30. Winds so slow they feel like pauses between breaths. The rhythm here does not rush. It does not push or demand. It is a poem read so slowly that you hear the sound of each word. Pluto reminds us that some transformations in life require nothing more than time, long, patient, quiet time. It is a metaphor for the hidden gradual changes within the human soul. A dim but sufficient light, Pluto lies so far from the sun that daylight there is as faint as a winter afternoon on Earth just before the sky turns gray. And yet this light, faint, tired wandering is still enough to create layers of pale blue haze in its atmosphere, thin drifting mists. Ice crystals shining like glass when sunlight touches them. Just like us, we do not need much light. Just a little is enough to keep hope alive. Pluto is not radiant, but it is enduring. The beauty of simply being Pluto is not as grand as Jupiter, not as bright as Venus, not as volcanic or alive as Io or Europa. But Pluto's beauty is the beauty of humility. Kierkegaard once said, "In the sickness unto death, the most common form of despair is not being who you are." Pluto has never tried to be anything else. It does not ask for status. It does not fight for affection. It simply is a small, icy world, quiet yet persistent. And in that simplicity, Pluto is more beautiful than any title could ever make it. Toward the deeper dark, as we leave Pluto's frozen fields, the space before us suddenly darkens deeper, wider, quieter. Because the next chapter will carry us toward beings that have no surface, no light, no sound. Black holes, rogue wanderers, intermediate giants, and the cosmic collisions that send gravitational waves trembling across the universe. If Pluto is the winter lullaby of the solar system, The next chapter will be the deep resonant echo within the darkest chambers of the cosmos. This is not the darkness of a winter night, but the darkness of primordial space, where light arrives only to vanish, where sound cannot travel, where the universe hears nothing but the echo of its own silence. Within that vast, breathless, dark, strange beings drift quietly, not shining, not reflecting, simply moving between the stars like shadows that have learned to wander. Black holes, invisible silhouettes powerful enough to bend the fabric of space around them. The wandering ones, black holes without homes. We often imagine black holes as beasts anchored at the centers of galaxies. But the truth is softer, stranger. Some black holes wander drifting through space with no orbit, no companion star, no sign of their passing, no light, no trace. Only mass, immense, silent, and the faint distortions they leave behind. We know they're there only when a distant star's light warps slightly, microlensing a whisper-thin sigh in the dark. And then we realize some of these shadows may lie only a few thousand light years from Earth, far closer than we ever imagined. Milan Kundera wrote in, "The unbearable lightness of being. The heavier the burden, the closer our lives come to the Earth." Black holes are the burdens of the universe, so heavy that they press into the fundamental skeleton of space-time itself. And because of that weight, we feel their presence even when we cannot see them. The missing middle intermediate black holes. Astronomers know two familiar kinds of black holes: stellar black holes, the remains of collapsed stars; supermassive black holes, monsters in galactic centers, but between them lies a haunting gap: intermediate black holes too large to be stellar, too small to rule a galaxy, and so elusive they feel like lost children of the cosmos. In the star cluster Messier 4, less than 7,000 light-years from Earth, Hubble detected signs of such a being. No glow, no radiation, only the strange circular motions of nearby stars, just as we know the wind by watching the grass move. Philosophy in the dark. What black holes teach. To look at black holes is to face a quiet philosophical truth. Some things cannot be known yet. They shape our lives completely. Freud described the unconscious as a dark place where memories and desires are buried. Black holes resemble this perfectly, the unconscious of the cosmos swallowing light, hiding information, but influencing everything nearby. In Beyond the Pleasure Principle, Freud wrote, "The shadow of the object fell upon the ego. The universe too has shadows that fall upon space-time, warping it, twisting it, forcing light to choose new paths. When shadows collide, gravitational waves, if anything is stranger than a black hole, it is two black holes spiraling toward each other. As they draw close, they churn space-time, sending ripples outward, gravitational waves. These waves don't shake the air, don't produce sound, but stretch and compress everything they pass through by an amount smaller than a proton." Einstein predicted this in general relativity, though he doubted humanity would ever be able to measure it. But then LIGO listened, not with ears, but with light itself trembling slightly as space-time quivered. It was a cosmic song written in collisions, performed in silence. As Rumi once wrote, "When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about." When two black holes merge, the universe becomes too full to be spoken aloud. Black holes are not endings. Despite their fearsome reputation, black holes are not the universe's dead ends. They are links. They create gravitational waves. They sculpt the motion of galaxies. They may recycle matter into energy. They help define the structure of the cosmos. Just as in our own lives, there are events that feel like endings, yet time reveals them as transitions. Nietzsche wrote in The Will to Power, "One must still have chaos in oneself to be able to give birth to a dancing star." Black holes are the universe's chaos, and from that chaos, new stars are born. A softness in the dark. The narration here must be quiet, low, slow, slightly dreamlike. Not to frighten the listener, but to carry them gently through a soft realm of darkness, like hearing distant waves crash against cliffs, loud enough to feel their presence, soft enough to soothe. Black holes are not the nightmares of the universe. They are its deepest exhalations. The moments when space-time sighs, when light leans in and disappears, when silence becomes a teacher. And from this soft abyss, our journey will continue toward even more delicate frontiers, where space itself may tear and expand in ways the human mind was never meant to imagine. As the echoes of the wandering black holes from the previous chapter fade into stillness, a question as light as stardust gently rises in the mind. If some black holes drift aimlessly through darkness, then what about the ones at the centers of galaxies? They do not wander, they do not hide. They do not drift like silent shadows. They stand absolutely still in perfect, unmoving quiet at the very heart of spirals containing hundreds of billions of stars, like an invisible heart that no eye can ever see. A simple question with the breadth of philosophy. Did the galaxy give birth to its black hole, or did the black hole give birth to the galaxy? For many years, science believed black holes were merely the leftovers of massive stars. But as more powerful telescopes opened their golden mirrors, the universe began revealing contradictions, delicate, undeniable. Every large galaxy contains a supermassive black hole at its center. The mass of a galaxy correlates tightly with the mass of its black hole. Star formation depends on the mood of that central black hole. It is as though the galaxy knows its black hole, and the black hole knows the galaxy that surrounds it. They evolve together, like two dancers moving to a music no one else can hear. The black hole as this galaxy's quiet conductor. A supermassive black hole is not simply a heavy core pulling everything inward. It is the conductor of the galaxy's rhythm. When it breathes, jets of hot plasma can be hurled tens of thousands of light years into space. When it rests, new stars begin to bloom in the galaxy once more. A being without surface, without light, without voice, and yet it governs the formation of hundreds of billions of stars. Lao Tzu wrote in the Tao Te Ching, "We shape clay into a pot, but it is the emptiness inside that holds whatever we want." A galaxy works the same way. It is the invisible emptiness at its center, a black hole that defines its shape. Too fierce, too gentle, or just right, black holes are often portrayed only as devourers of light, but at the core of galaxies, they act more like architects. A black hole too fierce extinguishes star formation. A black hole too weak allows the galaxy to lose its structure. Only a black hole of just enough strength keeps the galaxy balanced for billions of years. This mirrors the landscape of the human mind. If we are too loose, we lose our center. If we are too rigid, we suffocate. Only with a quiet, steady nucleus within can we breathe with ease. Nietzsche wrote in Beyond Good and Evil, one must have chaos in oneself to give birth to a dancing star. The black hole is that chaos. And the galaxy with its billions of luminous suns is the dancing star born from it. The unseen center. Imagine looking down at a spiral galaxy from above. At the center, a dark point, no glow, no color, no surface. Around it, spiral arms spinning with soft, graceful curves like petals turning slowly in a gentle stream. All of that motion, all of that elegance, all of that cosmic harmony held together by something we cannot see. This is the quiet philosophy hidden inside galactic structure. The most important things in life are the things we cannot see, yet without them everything falls apart. Love, trust, meaning, stillness, and yes, the black hole at the galaxy's center. Co-evolution, a cosmic companionship. A galaxy and its central black hole cannot be separated. When the galaxy grows, the black hole grows. When the black hole shifts or erupts, the galaxy responds. No one dominates. No one creates the other. They are companions walking together through billions of years, sharing the same cosmic breath. Hegel wrote in The Phenomenology of Spirit, being is nothing and nothing is being. Perhaps the truth between galaxy and black hole is just as soft and paradoxical. The nothingness of the black hole and the being of the galaxy do not oppose each other, they lean on each other. Each exists through the other. Who came first? The question which came first reveals its answer gently. Neither, and both. The life of a galaxy and the stillness of its black hole emerge together, grow together, shape the universe together. Just as we as individuals are shaped not by one cause, but by the co-evolution of memory, environment, choice, heritage, and the silent forces deep within. The feeling at the center. When speaking of galactic nuclei, data matters little. What matters is feeling a feeling like sitting before a perfectly still lake, gazing into waters so dark you see nothing, yet sensing an immense power beneath the surface, a beauty that the eye cannot see but the heart can unmistakably feel. And that is the essence of the supermassive black hole, the quiet anchor holding an entire cosmic bloom in its gentle, invisible hands. As we drift away from the galactic center, from that quiet, eternal embrace between black hole and galaxy evolving across billions of years, we return gently to a much smaller, much more human question. And what about us? Humanity, a fleeting spark in the river of spacetime. Where are we going? The question carries no panic. It is only a whisper from the universe reminding us that everything which exists must continue to move. And the next movement of our species may have to begin with leaving the Earth. For millions of years, Earth has held us in its tender arms. An atmosphere soft as a blanket, oceans blue as a sleeping breath, forests rising like gentle hands around us. But behind that sense of safety, Earth has always been more fragile than we believed. A single asteroid only a few kilometers wide could erase an entire civilization. Climate change, warming seas, resource collapse, ecosystem breakdown. These are not distant prophecies. They are happening now quietly, steadily, like cracks forming beneath a frozen lake. And even if humanity lived in perfect balance with nature, Earth could not protect us forever. The sun will grow hotter. The oceans will one day boil. Forests will wither. And in 1 to 1.5 billion years, Earth will no longer be habitable. Nietzsche once wrote in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, "Man is something that shall be overcome. To continue living, humanity must overcome its oldest limitation. We must one day leave our cradle." Earth is the birthplace of our species, but as Konstantin Tsiolkovsky said, Earth is the cradle of humanity, but one cannot live in the cradle forever. No one lives their whole life in a cradle. No civilization remains forever in a single home. Evolution is not merely the change of a body, it is the change of a habitat. And if we wish to endure, we must become a species that lives across worlds. Not all danger comes from space. Some comes from within ourselves: soil collapse and famine, technological conflict, pandemics, supply chain breakdowns, the slow unraveling of ecosystems. These threats don't strike in a single moment like an asteroid. They erode like water carving a canyon through stone. Seneca wrote in Letters from a Stoic, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." Humanity does not lack time, it lacks direction. And sooner or later, that direction must lead us beyond the Earth. If we must choose a destination, the universe has already offered us a candidate. Proxima Centauri b, just 4.24 light-years away. A distance overwhelming to the human mind, yet close on the scale of the galaxy. Proxima b lies in a potentially habitable zone, is similar in size to Earth orbits. The nearest star to our Sun is our first real symbol of interstellar migration. We do not know if it has oceans, an atmosphere, or even the faintest breath of life. But it is a sign, the first flicker of a future in which humanity no longer belongs to a single world. It is the same moment our ancestors faced when they stepped out of Africa, not knowing where they were going, only knowing that they must go. This chapter must carry dual emotions, a soft anxiety about an uncertain future, but a deep hope, a hope that flows like a quiet poem under the surface. As Camus said in The Myth of Sisyphus, the struggle itself is enough to fill a man's heart. Leaving Earth is not a failure. It is the continuation of life's long story, because life from the smallest microbes to the greatest civilizations has always moved outward, seeking new space in which to grow. To leave the Earth is to leave childhood. Earth held us the way a mother holds her infant, giving us oxygen, oceans, forests, sunrises, the first warmth of fire, the first stories whispered in the dark. But every child must one day step beyond the doorway, not because they stop loving their home, but because they are ready to carry its story into a wider world. So too with humanity. We do not leave Earth out of rejection. We leave because we love it enough to want its legacy to reach the stars. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "What happens to each of us happens for the good of the whole." And perhaps the departure of humankind from Earth is not a separation, but the spreading of life itself, a small blue world, sending its children outward into the vast waiting dark. After contemplating the fragile future of Earth, the asteroids, the climate, the dwindling resources, and the delicate fate of our civilization, we slowly realize that leaving our home is no longer a choice, but the next chapter in the long evolution of life. And where that chapter begins is not with radiant ships leaping across space at the speed of light, not with miraculous technologies born from the pages of fiction. It begins with generation ships. Vast drifting homes moving through darkness where people are born, grow up, grow old, and pass on so that their children continue the journey. A voyage longer than a lifetime, yet gentle as a single breath. A generation ship is not a starship. It is a miniature world with a population of 100 to 500, a number just large enough to preserve genetic diversity and just small enough to keep the community from overwhelming the balance of a closed ecosystem. They do not live with the goal of arriving. Arrival belongs to the next generation, and the generation after that. As Khalil Gibran wrote in The Prophet, "You are the bows from which your children as living arrows are sent forth. On such a vessel, everyone becomes a bow, and their descendants become arrows set loose toward the stars. to keep bones from becoming brittle, muscles from withering, and the heart from forgetting how to beat with strength. Generation ships must create artificial gravity. There are many ways spinning the ship like a great rotating wheel, using centrifugal force arranging living quarters in circular tiers. Children born in space will grow up under Earth like gravity, so that when they set foot on a new world, their bodies do not collapse beneath the weight of their own existence. Gravity, something we rarely think about, becomes the final thread tying humanity to its blue homeland. Can you imagine a forest inside a spacecraft? Their trees rise not from soil, but from nutrient solutions and soft, warm LED light. Leaves do not rustle in wind, but tremble gently beneath the hum of ventilation. The smell of earth, the forest of breeze stall recreated so that the human spirit still remembers the fragrance of earth. Those hydroponic gardens nourish not just the body, but memory itself. A quiet reminder, we once came from a place of forests, rain, and tender soil. On a journey lasting centuries, loneliness is not an occasional feeling, but a state of being. So the AI aboard generation ships is not simply a tool, but a companion of the mind, helping with stress, guiding meditation, offering relationship counsel, archiving logs and generational memory, not to replace humanity, but to keep the human soul from breaking in the long dark. In Meditations, Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." AI becomes the mirror guiding future generations inward, helping them rediscover that silent refuge. What powers the ship? Fusion energy like the sun, or even antimatter, the purest power the universe knows. No roar, no blaze, only a deep, steady vibration like the heartbeat of a colossal creature asleep. And in that sleep, it carries hundreds of lives through darkness like a leaf drifting across a night ocean. Those born on generation ships will never know the feeling of standing on real soil, never the blue sky, never ocean waves, never the scent of rain. But they will know a star-filled sky through the window, the steady thrum of engines, a small but tightly bonded community, the responsibility toward those who will come after, and most of all, they will grow up with a new awareness. We are a species of the stars. We carry Earth's story forward. In an imagined journal of a fifth-generation traveler, one might hear a whisper, "I have never set foot on Earth." But I carry its memory in my heart as one might carry the memory of a homeland never seen. And then one day, after many generations, our descendants will witness the first light from a distant world, perhaps Proxima Centauri b, or perhaps someplace entirely unknown. They will stand before the vessel's window, watching the planet grow slowly larger in their gaze. And when they look back at Earth on the journey map, they will see only a faint blue dot dissolving into space. At that moment, the softest whisper of this chapter will rise. One day, our descendants will look back at Earth and see it only as a pale blue memory. And they will know the story of life never ends. It only changes its form, its flow, its place to rest. And now, as our long voyage reaches its final stretch, as we have crossed the first one-dimensional lines of the universe, the soft mirror-like surfaces, the invisible doors of higher dimensions. As we wandered through Minkowski's space-time, felt the stretching of hours, listened to the tales of particles and waves, touched the dark side of the moon, gazed upon the oceans hidden beneath distant ice. As we stood in awe before the vast lattice of the cosmic web, watched ancient light from the universe's first breaths, trembled before Pluto's frozen beauty, and contemplated the silent mystery of black holes as we dreamed of humanity's future generation. Ships drifting like night-born visions, carrying Earth's seeds through the darkness toward a new home. We realize that this entire journey from 1D to the farthest worlds, from galaxies to the nucleus of the soul, is not merely the story of the universe. It is also the story of us. The universe does not hurry. It does not force. It unfolds by its own breath, gentle, deep, patient. And in the last quiet of tonight, perhaps, you can feel that same rhythm within your own body. A soft settling, a loosening, a small, honest space between the thoughts that usually crowd your day. Carl Sagan once said, "Somewhere something incredible is waiting to be known." But sometimes, the most incredible thing is not between the stars, but in the moment you allow yourself to rest, to soften, and to feel that you too belong to this tender universe. You do not need to chase it. You have always been within it. The 20th chapter journey ends here, but it does not close. It dissolves into the night like a river dissolving into the sea. The universe continues to expand. Life continues to seek its path, and you right now continue to breathe gently, peacefully, as if the galaxy itself were breathing with you. Let your eyes fall closed slowly. Let your mind soften like Pluto's pale haze. Let your whole body drift like a generation ship gliding through the stars. And if sleep arrives in the next moment, know that you are being cradled by the universe's own quiet breath. May your night be calm, deep, light, as if the entire Milky Way were closing its eyes with you.